We had company, lots of company today. I'm kind of tired, but at the same time, well, I also slept like shit last night, so I should be tired. But I guess I kind of got a wake up call. It's funny because somebody said to me today that my weakest painting, what is considered my weakest painting as a painting, says the most about me and is the strongest in that respect. And I'm like, what? Like, there's the most strength in this painting? This is. An interesting way to look at things. So, I mean, I kind of saw what she was saying. It was interesting. I like hearing people's points of views like that. Um, she gave me some ideas of where to take some of my work, where my style may actually be appreciated. And, that's, I mean, it's not going to be easy to break into it, but it's an idea.
What,
And
Chris?
an option.
Okay, bring it down.
She also suggested the Asian market. Yeah, what are you doing? Go play. Oh, I know. Go. I love you too. Go play. Go play. You have toys. You have, like, all these toys. You have too many toys. Go play. What about my toys? We'll go play with them if you're worried about them. So anyway, I guess I'm not as... Well, most people don't look at me and say, wow, she's really given up. Like, there's some soul-crushing stuff in there. You know? Gene can see me. I mean, I've told him too, but he can see it. She looks at me and says, put on your armor and stand up. Okay. I won't pretend it's an easy thing to do. But okay. Sometimes we need reminders like that. Put on your armor and keep going. It's not a physical thing. It's... But okay. Let's do it. I can't promise I will feel like that every moment of the day. But still gotta keep going. people often associate, that feeling of giving up with depression, but it's not. There's different levels and there's different stuff. Like depression is chemical. This is deeper and spiritual, and like I get up and I do what I need to do, but I'm she could never have kids, so she doesn't quite because there's something very deep there, and being separated from my children has caused such an extreme reaction. We did not even know that I had Hashimoto's. The physical reaction that caused me, the bleeding, the mess with the bleeding, and by the way, every time we find something that works for a little while, it works for a little while, and then it doesn't. We've just reached the it doesn't anymore point of this. And that didn't even start until then. So this is something that affects me so deeply. It also affects my physical health directly in a way that it has almost killed me. Because your health can actually be, it's more common with women, can be influenced by your emotional well-being. And even as a baby, my health was influenced by, if you separated me from people I was really bonded to, things would get worse. I mean, we knew I had febrile seizures back then, so nobody was surprised whenever I had more seizures. Well, we didn't know that I had Hashimoto's. So, the fact that I have a much more extreme reaction than some people have just with Hashimoto's it's an emotional thing. It's a thing that's triggered basically by a very extreme situation where I am separated from my children. I do not know if they're alive or dead, and I have been separated from them for years, and I have bled every one of those years. It actually started fairly didn't take long to start. It didn't start off completely as bad as it got, but it just sort of got progressive, and it got to the point where my doctors wouldn't even acknowledge that it could have a source in Hashimoto's, because they basically think I'm just bleeding because of the emotional reaction, and that they can just fix it with hormones, like birth control, but it's not working. Because there's always something to make worse whenever something makes it worse. So it made this worse to the point that I'm bleeding, and I never had an abnormal period before that. I was very regular. Everything was, it just abnormal in the fact that they lasted like 2 days longer than usual, but that wasn't even unusual in of itself. And women in my family run heavier periods to begin with, but again, that's not unusual. To actually have such an extreme reaction, though, where I'm passing clots that are bigger than your uterus is supposed to get. You're not supposed to be doing that, especially on a daily basis, multiple times a day. That's not normal. And it's already almost killed me at a point. Before, in the beginning, before anyone would listen to me. And then there was another time I had to get a blood transfusion because of it. because my iron had gone too low and they were actually keeping an eye on it, you know? But yeah, this being separated from my children is killing me, literally. Not just soul deep, where I'm walking around with my heart ripped out, but physically. It has taken such a toll on me that it literally caused the discovery of a health issue we did not even know existed because of this. Imagine something that you feel so deeply that it can affect you physically. That's what I'm dealing with. That it doesn't just feel like that almost physical pain in your chest, walking around with that, but also affects your health and essentially makes you sick. Like, they probably wouldn't have found the Hashimoto's for a very long time. But the reactions became so extreme. And even then, like, they were so stupid because they literally thought that that was, like, the only cause. But that's not how that works. I'm not the first person in my family who's had my health connected to my emotional well-being. Okay? It's happened before. It doesn't happen to everybody, but it's happened before. And generally, the logic with that is that there has to be something physical there in order for it to be made worse. And that's all it is. It's not where it comes out of thin air. There has to be a physical cause for the emotional stuff to make it worse. Hashimoto's is not, to my knowledge, curable. It is literally where your immune system is attacking your thyroid. And that affects other things. Having an abnormal period and whatnot is actually, it's a bit of a more extreme on that spectrum. And what I'm experiencing is more extreme than that. Imagine a pain like that, where you feel like you're walking around with your heart ripped out, and you can almost physically feel this pain in your chest. You know that, like, there's no pain there physically, but, like, you feel like you can't breathe. Like every moment you could just your heart's just, it's indescribable, and I'm trying to describe it. Okay, now imagine that with such an intensity that it affects your physical health. And that's pretty much what I'm going through. And I reached this point where I was like, and it was fairly recent too, where I was just like, you know what, I've given up. I'll probably never see my kids again. I've given up on ever seeing them. I've given up on the possibility that they'll ever find me. They'll probably believe whatever lies they've been told or whatever, and I sort of reached that point where I'd lost hope. And she just said, put on your armor. Keep going. She's not wrong. There's really nothing else to do. Because if I lay down and don't keep going even for a minute, even if I've died inside 1,000,000 times over, I will eventually become depressed. Depression and feelings are two different things. It's something that you have to understand. Depression is a chemical thing, and emotions are not necessarily chemical. They're a little deeper than that. And it is possible for a chemical reaction to even happen contrary to your emotions. But they should be reactive to those. So if I lay down and give up, if I don't get up and put on my armor as she put it, I will become depressed and I will succumb to that. And it has happened to so many people, so many. There are some mothers who can't handle what happened to us to the degree that they just opt out. Permanently opt out. This is such a monstrous thing to put people through, and all it was is that you will eventually do or fail to do something. That was what it amounted to. I was never accused of doing anything. Nothing specific, nothing at all. I wasn't accused of failing to provide for my children, of anything like that. I wasn't accused of harming them, of allowing them to be harmed. They had food, water, shelter, we had electricity. They had friends, little kids that they played with. There was no harm, nothing. And they put down, they made it very general and basically said that because I have any diagnosis, all of this automatically must be true. And the whole call wasn't even about how I cared for my kids. It was just saying that someone called and claimed that I thought that my cat could turn into a person, which was never true. And in fact, I had many doctor's notes saying that I did not have psychosis. And it was never true. It was an ex-roommate who had already been given a notice as per the agreement that we'd had before. And I was like, well, you have 6 months, and then if you don't get out, we're going to court with this. Or, we will take ourselves off the lease and move. Either way, you're not a roommate anymore after this point. Because you stopped taking your meds and you have schizophrenia. You can't do that. So, there was stuff that led to the realization of that, because naturally someone with schizophrenia actually does have psychosis. I was accused of thinking that my cat could turn into a person by this woman. The workers did not ask to come in. They forced their way in. They took my kids without a warrant, without cause, just on the basis that, and this will forever haunt me, people with mental illness should not have children. Those are the exact words that were said to me. I have PTSD. It's what I have. That's what I actually have. And that is what is on my diagnosis sheet. They got their person to say something, but like he didn't even do a complete. I've been in the system since I was 6. You know how many of these things I've been through? A lot. He didn't even do a complete evaluation. This wasn't even complete. He was deciding things before he was even done. He knew what the result he wanted was. All he was looking for was what he was going to use for that, and then he was done. You're not supposed to do things that way. That's actually unethical, and you can be sued for that, among other things. But I don't have the power to do that. So, like a lot of other people this happens to, it gets away. They get away with it. So I get to walk around like this. She completely forgot that Chris was even my stepson. It's actually been mentioned before. She was like, he just calls you mom, and it's just the way that we interact. You know? Proving that what they did was such bullshit. Which, by the way, can be proven with a very basic, screening. Can just go, what? Their shit can't even hang up to that, let alone court. There's never any charges filed, nothing. This judge literally just gave no fucks. And she didn't care. She just cared about her stupid funding consequences. And my family paid the price for that. For her ignorance. And for her greed. Because what else can you call it whenever somebody is out there preaching about making decisions for funding consequences? My children should have never been taken to begin with, let alone what happened to us. There was no grounds for this. Nothing that you can even legally say. Just because a judge says, oh, well, after the fact, I'm just going to say, okay, months later. And they had my kids for longer than they were putting down on that paperwork. So they also committed fraud with that. And just, there was so much crap. And I guess sometimes you need to hear it, put on your armor, and keep going. Right, Lucky? There's a lot of things that she understands. But as someone who was unable to have kids, I don't think she understands that there is a difference. It's not something people like to talk about, if they know, because it's just different. And if you try to explain to that to someone who doesn't know, they'll try and act like you're saying something that you're not, or they'll, like, I love my stepson very much. But it's not the same bond as it is with a child born of you. And acting like parents are replaceable is stupid. I love my stepson very, very much. And since we probably have blood in there on his mom's side, you know, we probably even have like a weirdly stronger bond for that. But it's it's not like it's less strong or anything. I mean, in a way, I guess, maybe, but see, this is where it gets lost in translation because it's different.